So Jeff and I talk a lot about what it means for us to take 100% responsibility for not only our life, but every aspect of our life, especially when it comes to achieving our goals, navigating conflict. When we run into issues that aren't aligned with our values. So what does it look like when you live a life where you do take responsibility for the outcomes of your choices? You realize that the reality you create is a direct reflection of every choice that you are saying yes to. And then, just what how your life becomes that expression. And taking responsibility can be hard. Also owning when you make mistakes, because we are all infallible. And
if you're looking for some inspiration in that field, looking online for Tom Bilyeu. He does a very inspirational podcast, and I like the concept he talks about. It's all your fault, or it's all my fault. And that's a concept I learned actually really young. At 17, I had read a book, and they said, take responsibility for everything that ever happened to you. And by doing that, myself, I had cancer at 2 years old. If I take responsibility for that, and only having one kidney, now I can't be the victim. No one can have power over me. So if you consider your responsibility for everything that's ever happened to you, and don't put the blame on anyone, now you're in the power position. You're not the victim.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of, is that so many people, and again, like, we're not infallible. We do this ourselves, and it's catching ourselves when we do it. Is that it's almost natural when you're in that heated emotion to just blame someone else. When you're uncomfortable, you're sad, you're angry, you're frustrated at whatever situation, you blame. And we all know that expression is when you point the finger to someone else, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. And I love that, because it's like, yes, how did I create this situation? In, let's just say, the spiritual world, you hear people say, oh, we co-create. Do you want to co-create this thing? Because we are co-creating our reality with others. And it's a lot easier to blame someone else than to look at yourself and, again, take responsibility for how you created that situation. Because if you are engaged in that situation, you can't not have some responsibility for it. And, okay, I think there's also something that plays out where people take too much responsibility for a situation, and people who take less responsibility for when things happen. And oftentimes how that shows up is people who take more responsibility are kind of doing this like heroing dynamic, and then people who take less responsibility is like they're like the victim dynamic.
Yeah, and I think like what stands out to me is, if, like you're saying, the victim, but if you don't take 100% responsibility for everything that happens to you, good, bad, or indifferent, even if, logically it seems like you had absolutely nothing to do with it, if you don't take 100% responsibility, how can you ever fix it? Because now the power is in someone else's hands.
Yeah.
The power is in whoever harmed you, or is, controlling this thing that you have no control over. But if you think that everything is my fault, I have 100% control over everything in my life, whether it's an earthquake or whatever, you get to decide how you react to whatever happens to you. But if you're going to play the victim and you're like, oh, well, the bank denied me for this loan, or, my car broke down, or, if you put something else in the power position, how are you going to ever recover from it? How are you going to take control of the situation if something else is responsible for whether or not your outcome is good, or if it's bad, or your health, or if everything is in everyone else's hands, you're never gonna reap the rewards or be in the power position to take control and create a better future for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's an expression of like, you're not gonna get an apple tree by planting an oak seed. So you have to realize that whatever you put into something is going to bear the fruits of that. Another example that we heard recently from one of our mentors was like, it wouldn't be fair if, the person who sat on their couch all day and ate McDonald's and junk food had the six pack, and then the person who, you know, cared about their food, drank spring water, exercised daily, got outside, had healthy relationships, you know, was fat and slobby. Like, there are some, you know, you can air quote call like rules to this game, or like rules to this reality. And you
life
know,
is fair.
Yeah, exactly. Life is fair. So if you plant that, you know, apple seed, and you tend to that, you water that, you know, take care of the soil, you nurture that seedling, you will bear the fruits one day. And I think that's really important to realize in this idea of taking 100% responsibility, also taking back your power, is that you have the ability to create. And, you know, again, this would be, if we go to that expression that we love, like pray and move your feet, you know, again, in the spiritual realm, you have this idea that, you know, oh, you can just manifest everything. And like, in some ways, yes, it's a yes, no, maybe. Like, manifestation is great, prayer is great, but if there's no follow through in action or direction, yeah, then, you know, again, I could be praying, I could be sitting on my couch and just like praying for that six pack, but is that gonna manifest?
Yeah.
Probably not.
If you don't get your butt to the gym while you're not doing what they say, like, where attention goes, energy flows. Yeah. Well, you know, you could talk about being greener and caring for the environment, and then, you know, you're still making a pile of trash every weekend. Or, you know, like the six-pack ab thing, if you're not getting out to the gym, you're not putting the energy and intention and attention toward this goal, and all the affirmations and prayers aren't going to matter, because God doesn't answer your prayers, he helps you. So God just doesn't go around answering everyone's, like, everyone, it's a joke, the big joke is like, you know, everyone's asking God for favors, or like, oh, help me win the lottery, you know, would you just give me this freebie? And it's like, that's not how it works. You gotta, he sees you moving your feet, he sees you busting your butt, and he gives you a little push in the right direction.
Yeah.
What else would you add to that? I think what we see a lot of is people have the intention, but they don't give it attention. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. Or social media has kind of made a muck of everything. And you've got people trying to biohack or shortcut, or not put in the time and effort needed to get the result that they're looking for. And I think that's something we've been victims of in the business space, is like, oh my gosh, it's been 3 months and we've been doing this one thing, why aren't we rich yet?
Yeah.
And I think that's something we see in ourselves.
Yeah, and I think there's a piece of failure. So oftentimes when we fail at something, it sucks. I mean, we all know this, right? You have this dream, you work towards it, and then you come into these roadblocks. I loved actually, so for those who know, we have a baby, a 6-month-old right now, and, you know, it made me think the other day, we were talking and someone said like, oh, you know, it just, you know, we're working on baby steps, and then the hiccups, and you see this with these newborns, they you know, they hiccup as they grow and change, and they actually, you know, have their little baby steps of growth, and they fall as they learn to walk. And I think if we let all these roadblocks just stop us, and I mean, I'm one where it's hard for me, where I put so much, you know, attention and like energy towards something, and when I do run up into a roadblock, I do get hard on myself, and I find myself like, oh, why isn't this working? And sometimes that does hold me back, and I'm learning to break through that pattern. But I think it's super important that when we're working through this, that those problems are actually the gateway to that unlocked knowledge for you. So when you run into, oh, this isn't working, that is actually the indication of your next step. And if you reframe it and then use those as like, okay, well, what are we doing wrong? And then when you figure it out, you will get rewarded for that. I believe that. And I mean, we have experience of that is like when we change things and we break out of our patterns, because we're all going to have these baseline patterns of habits or personality, and if we can break through those patterns, then we can find growth.
And it's a dichotomy too, because sometimes it's you just haven't stuck with it long enough to see the results. And I think we're victims of that too.
Yeah.
And listening to these business mentors and mentors in health and fitness saying like, oh yeah, like you just haven't done enough yet. Like you got to go at a couple more months or a year.
Well, it's like the 10,000 hours expression.
Yeah, but then there's also the, sometimes you have to be like, okay, I know that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And chalk that up as a failure, and not a failure like, oh God, I'm a loser. Like, don't have this negative self-talk, but like, okay, I know that doesn't work. I'm going to do something different. Or this part of it did work. I'm going to go with that and not repeat this step.
Well, when we talk about, walking your path and, we're all on this journey, I think there's two parts of that. There's moving towards things as we figure out our vision and we all move closer to our life vision and goals. And there's also a part of moving away from things. And like in some ways that inner compass is a balance of both. When things work, yes, keep feeding that. When things don't work, step away, move away. And both of those energies are present when you're trying to find your goals.
Yeah, and our mentor Ty Lopez says you got to learn from mistakes, but no one said they had to be your mistakes. Yeah. And that's such valuable lesson to be like, so oh yeah, like pick up a book, watch a biography, learn from other people's mistakes. Another mentor of ours said like, share your story without the scar, because someone took the lumps and the bruises on the way up, and you can learn from that so you don't have to make their same mistake. Because if all of humanity was just, learning from your own mistakes, we wouldn't get anywhere. Yeah, every generation would have to start over.
Well, exactly. And even when you're choosing mentors or even, friends, or like with us raising our family, it's like the people that are going to be around our kids, we want them to be inspirational. We want them to almost be more successful than us, have more health, wealth, happiness, joy, beauty in their lives than us, so we can learn from them. Because if, actually, and it's both, we also want to be supporting people who are less successful than us, but when we're on this journey of becoming our fullest self, you want to surround yourself by people who inspire you and people who lift you up and believe in you and want to share and support you on your journey, so that you can support others, of course. And
if you're playing poker and you don't know who the sucker is, you're the sucker. So you want to be surrounded by people who are challenging you and, like you said, like lifting you up and inspiring you. Or, maybe you're like the business mogul of your friend group, but, you have that one friend who's just got the health thing dialed in. Yeah. So it's not always about money or monetary success, or, they got the good looking Instagram and wow, look how like they look real good on Instagram, sexy, and oh, why do they always take the best pictures? Well, maybe they got something to teach you. Maybe they're like, hey, hold your phone like this. You look way better. So there's things I think everyone can teach us, and being humble enough to see that, but also being confident and grounded enough that it's like, okay, I failed, I can move on. Or like, what? I'm still failing, but like something feels right. I'm going to keep pushing through. Yeah. And it's not a yes, no. It's not a black and white. There's gradients, and then there's, it's not a straight line to success. It's a zigzag path, and sometimes it goes back down and then up and then down again and then backwards, sideways, all over the place. Sometimes you feel like you're going in circles. Yeah, and I think there's this like thought experiment happening right now where people's their like visioning ability or their long-term thinking is shortened, and we have this like just everyone's brain is running on instant reward. Well, what about the part of our psyche that's meant to think 7 generations ahead of you? With that being this idea, like Rome wasn't built in a day. It took time. But if you don't have that psyche framework of like, okay, I'm going to plant this tree for my child to harvest the fruits of, my grandchildren, I'm going to build a legacy in a home, in a piece of land, or in a business, so I can pass that down to my children and their children. And if you don't think that way, then
you'll never build something great enough. I mean, what's that expression too? It's like, if you have a vision that you don't need other people's help to get to, then your vision is too small, or something like that. And it's like this idea of thinking big, thinking multi-generational. But right now in this culture, there's so much like instant gratification and all of that dopamine spikes, that I feel like people's long-term insight and visioning is just becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. And I do think that's detrimental.
Yeah, so I just listened to an awesome book from Alex Hormozi called 100 Million Leads. And he's a business, I would say, a educator in the business space. And he lays this story out, and he talks about, like, he made his first $1 million and then he lost it. And then he made all his money again and then he lost it. And it's great to hear stories like that. But he talks about his journey of success, and he makes some money, and he has this podcast, and it's does it twice a week for 4 years. Nothing. There's no accolades. There's no one saying like, good job, keep going. And there was also no one saying like, you're amazing, like this is the best podcast ever. He's doing it 4 years with no rewards, no results, no pat on the back, no recognition, but he just sticks with it. And then eventually he's on the top 100 of podcasts. And then it slowly creeps up from there. But for 4 years, he's like, I wouldn't say suffered in silence, but he just trudged through.
Yeah.
And he talked about that same thing with business and using social media to build his business and presence online. He said, posting every day and just, like, is this really working? And all his mentors and people are saying like, yeah, you just keep going. And then eventually it just picks up steam. But in the business space or in the health space, so many times you're like, oh God, is this working? Like, I feel like I'm just banging my head against the wall. And am I doing this for nothing? And you're doubting yourself. But there's someone else out there that you're looking at like, how the heck did they get it? How did they get successful? How did they make it? But they had that weight on their back or their anchor, and they just dragged it. And it's Christianity talks about this, is like bearing your cross and walking with it. It's like, yeah, you're going to take your cross and climb that mountain, and eventually you get there. But when you see that person with the cross on their shoulder dragging it around, you're like, wow, that really sucks. Like, that does not look good. But then with Instagram and social media, we just see like, oh my God, he's on a private jet. Look at his Lamborghini. Or like, look at, he works from a laptop and travels the world. Whatever it is that you're looking at, that's like, oh my gosh, I wish that was me. Yeah, you don't see the like, I was, broke and I had to move back with my parents and start all over again. And for 5 years, no one knew about me and it sucked. And I drove a piece of crap car and it broke down. And, my wife divorced me, or whatever their background story is. You don't see the uphill 10-year timeline it took them to get to where they are. You just see the like, oh wow, look at this. They're in London, they're in France, they're in, and we always forget it. Like, oh yeah, like sometimes you just have to keep persevering. And that's something I think that we definitely lack in our society with the social media. Like you're saying earlier, it's like there's no perseverance with people.
Yeah.
They don't want to keep going. When times get tough, it's like, ugh, my social media is not popular. I only got 1,000 followers. I only got 10,000 followers. I want to give up. This sucks. Yeah. It's like, oh, why isn't my business taking off? Like, I've been doing it for 5 years and I'm still the person bottling the whatever. And like, I've been growing vegetables, and why is it not working?
Yeah. And I think, and it reminds me of that perseverance of when I was hiking the PCT in 2016. I remember planning for this trek. I was like, wow, this is a long distance. I'm hiking from the Mexican border up all through California, Oregon, Washington to British Columbia. And it was 2,600 miles. And that, for Canadians, that's the equivalent of, I believe, Ottawa to Vancouver, roughly same distance. And how did I do it? How was I able to do it? Was to take these little steps and taking one trip at a time. So it's like, okay, yeah, we've done many 5 to 10 day backpacking trips. So that's our next step. So we do one little 5 to 10 day jaunt. We do a resupply. We do another one. Resupply. We do another one. And then even smaller than that, every step is literally, it's like the corniest whatever expression, but it's like one step at a time, truly, in this case, where every step was getting us closer and closer to our goals. And when we hiked, there's a lot of people who would skip sections. They would go into town and then kind of hop a few hundred miles and then go back on trail and keep hiking. But we were so disciplined in connecting our footsteps for the entire trail. And I mean, no one can take away that feeling of when you complete something like that.
Mile by mile takes a while, inch by inch is a cinch. And another of our mentors mentioned, like, do you see a baby like pout and give up and start crying when they can't walk? It's like, no, they keep falling, they keep going till they figure it out. They don't give up on themselves or like, this is stupid, I'm just gonna keep pooping in my pants and I'm not gonna walk, I'm just gonna be a slob. And no, they just keep going because they don't have all this ego and download. They just naturally, it's like, oh, like I feel like I move a little bit more today. It's like, oh, I think I grew a bit, like I can maybe I can crawl and now I can walk. But they just keep going. They don't give up, they don't surrender, they're not doubting themselves, they just go. And that's a great lesson for people.
And I think in that, and maybe as we close up here, it's just realizing that, like, it takes curiosity, it takes humility, and you have to enjoy the process as much as it sucks sometimes. You have to be able to laugh at yourself, laugh at your patterns, laugh at, the things that don't work, the mistakes. Like, if you take it too seriously, that's when you'll fail, because you'll just want to give up. But we've both made mistakes, we catch ourselves, we reflect things to each other, Jeff and I, all the time. And if we were too, I don't know, like stubborn, I guess, we wouldn't be able to keep doing the work and offering more and growing and adapting. So I think that's super important.
And I think I want to close it out with this, is that in finding these mentors and people that we want to be more like or see the success that they've seen, is digging deeper than just social media and listening to their stories and stuff like that. Is so many of them all say the same thing. And I'll put it this way: the journey or the destination, the journey is the destination. Mm-hmm. So enjoy the journey to where you're looking to get, because so many of them say, like, oh, you know what, I look back to when I was running my social media, or I remember opening this first business and just having to bootstrap it all myself. And they all look back nostalgically, and the good times are actually the point we're in right now, which is great for us to get that message from these people we see that are super successful, and we're like, oh man, we'd love to have that success and that impact on people and be able to help people out, and see them saying like, oh yeah, like, oh, I remember like sleeping on the gym floor as I'm starting my gym, and then then it grew to 5 gyms, and now I'm a millionaire, multimillionaire. And hearing other people saying like, oh yeah, like I remember I tried to build a website for $30,000 and lost all my money, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I feel so stupid now looking back. But those are the things they look back at now. They don't even look at their mansion or their fancy cars or their trips. It's not even like what they think about that makes them smile. They think about like, oh, I remember when I got my wife to quit her job, and then I lost everything, and I went and met her parents for the first time. It's like, hey, I just quit my job and here's my new boyfriend, can we stay here? And these funny little stories that when me and Dariya are down, it's like, oh gosh, like we're a real pair of losers. But then we hear these stories, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like everyone goes through this.
Yeah.
And these people who are flying private jets or living the laptop lifestyle, you hear their stories, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like this is the part they relish the most, is this stage that we think we're in of like slow growth, progress, failing, try like, oh, let's do our taxes, and like, oh God, what a terrible idea. Or these different pieces of the business or life or the baby and family, and people look back at those times like, oh, those are the good times. Even though, on the outside, any of us would look at them and be like, oh my gosh, I wish I could be them. And they're like, man, I wish I could like go back a few more years and be in that like crazy time again.
Well, I think, yeah, if it wouldn't be a rite of passage or an initiation if it wasn't challenging. So
Yeah, exactly. It
yeah,
wouldn't be worth it, and it wouldn't be fair if just, everyone just hung up a sign in their house and said, I'm this, that, or the other, and just became millionaires.
yep.
It wouldn't be fair for all of us who have to work and suffer, and yeah,
So the journey is the destination.
get out there. Stay wild.